So this morning I raced at the Plaza 10k in Kansas City, Missouri. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared to race very well this morning. I ran 32:29 and placed 9th. This has been from the future while editing this video because I must have deleted some footage on accident. What I wanted to say here was that the course was super fast and the weather was great, but I just had a bad race. I'm not afraid to recognize or talk about bad races, but I just don't like to because of a couple reasons. The first reason is that I just don't like excuses, and the second reason is that if I talk about it in a certain way, I feel like it can discredit some of the other guys' races, and I definitely don't want to do that. So I'm going to keep this pretty brief, and I'm just going to analyze why the race didn't go so well. So everybody goes through rough patches in this sport, and you cannot expect to be serious in this sport without going through those rough patches. The truth is that I've been in a little bit of a rough patch with my running for the past few weeks, about a couple weeks after getting back from Colorado. I tried to account for the major training that I was doing in Colorado in July by taking a little bit of time off when I got back to the Midwest in August, but I just don't think it was enough, and I tried to jump back into things too quickly like I often do, and I just needed more time for my body to get used to the environment again. So the main problem has been in my right hip flexor and glute, and there's some symptoms that were pretty similar to when I got a stress fracture in college. So for the past few weeks I've been kind of training here and there and taking some days off and trying not to train enough to where it got as bad as it did then. So I'm still fine right now, but I just need to get rid of this completely. The other thing that I've thought about is that I really don't do that well in racing when it's soon after or during really high volume training that I haven't experienced yet. If I think back to last August and September, I was stringing together some really good workouts and mileage at that time, but I just wasn't putting the cross-country races up to par with that training. And like I said, part of that was just I was not used to that kind of training yet. After that training last August and September though, I was actually dealing with some of the same stuff in my hip that I'm dealing with now. So I just took some time off, got it completely fixed up, and then that's when I had my 10-week build up to Houston, where I was training pretty smart and conservative compared to what I was doing in August and September. And that resulted in a really, really great race, obviously, at the half marathon when I ran under 67 minutes barely. So I feel like the situation right now isn't that much different. Just this past July in Colorado, I averaged 125 miles per week for my last 4 weeks there, and that was even with a couple days off. And I still just think I'm feeling the effects of that a little bit. So right now what I need is to take an absolute minimum of 7 days off, and I'll take whatever I need to get completely fixed up. The Houston Marathon is exactly 19 weeks away from today, so if I were to take 2 weeks off, then I still have 17 weeks to plan out training up to that marathon, which is plenty of time because obviously I did well with only 10 weeks for a half marathon last year. Now I know that the marathon is a completely different ballgame from the half marathon, but I feel like if I was able to do that well with a 10-week training cycle in the half marathon, then for me, I think 14, 15, 16-week training cycle will be plenty for the marathon. This has also been from the future, and I just wanted to say that even though it's tough for me to race well in these extreme high volume training cycles, I still think it's absolutely crucial for me to have a successful race months down the road, thinking more long term. That worked really well for my half marathon last year, and I plan on that being no different for my marathon in January. I just need to recognize that this is all part of the process. So what can you expect from this YouTube channel in the next few weeks? While I'm letting my body rest up by not running, I'm also going to let my mind rest up by not even thinking about my own training and just completely removing myself from my own training for a little bit, because I think that'll be important going into my marathon training. Once I feel like I'm ready to go, I'm going to write down my training plan, and I will share that with you all, and I plan to do another Houston series like I did last year. So once that series starts up, I hope to get out a training video on average at least once per week. Another thing is that I think I'm going to ditch the GPS watch when I start training again. It was nice out in Colorado because I was in a very unfamiliar environment. I didn't really know how far I was going most of the time, and it was also difficult to get an estimate of the pace because I'd never trained at altitude before, so I couldn't really compare the effort to anything that I'd done in the past. But now I'm back in Pittsburgh, where I'm training on the mile section roads a lot of the time, and frankly, having the GPS watch just takes away from a lot of my philosophy of training by effort. So that's all I have for this video. Rough patches happen, bad races happen. Learn from them, rest up, whatever you need to do, and then persevere and move on, get better.